Well, everybody, thanks for downloading another episode of Three Different Dads with myself, Jim, and Tyler. Guys, thanks for it's another month already. It seems like it went by really fast.
Very
It
quick.
did. Super quick.
We're here to regale you with dad stories, parenting stories, and how us as dads would handle certain situations. And if anybody has situations they would like to submit to our podcast, they could email the nerdball podcast at gmail.com because that's all we have. Or tell us in person or text or whatever, because you whoever's listening to this probably knows us by phone number, so they can get a hold of us that way. So we're changing up a little bit. Last month Jim provided all the stories and we reacted to them. This month we're all bringing a story of some kind, and then the other two, I guess all of us, will react to it and talk about that story. So does anybody want to go first?
Let's do it.
All right, James, let's go. What do you
All
got?
right. Yeah, so mine comes from the ultra reliable New York Post, and It was a mom who started saving for her daughter's nose job when she was 12 years old.
Jeez.
And at 14 she had saved $30,000
Oh my.
and took her daughter to Las Vegas to go get a nose job. And she said it was worth it in the end because the daughter's self-confidence is a lot higher.
Mm-hmm.
This just sounds crazy to me.
It sounds very crazy. First of all, do we know if the daughter wanted this?
It sounds like in the article the daughter was picked on a little bit because of some different things, and this was she did have a large nose.
Yeah.
I saw before and after pictures of the whole thing. But I was just like, everybody is insecure when they're in their teenage. I mean, even now, it's like it's just a weird. I don't know. My first instinct, if my daughter said like, "Hey, my friends are making fun of me when they're 12," wouldn't it be like, "All right, let me save up 30 grand so we can go get your nose fixed"? It's like,
how quickly did the mother save up the 30 grand?
2 years, man. Working mom.
First of all,
So that's my initial reaction. That's my initial reaction is,
I don't know.
Is she single? Like, is she single? That's an aggressive savings plan. So good for the mother. But no, I would, man, I at least for myself, like that would be my daughter's, like, hey, you do you when you're 18 or older. Like because like, all right, so like devil's advocate, like what happens if the surgery's like botched? Like then what do you do?
Now this story did have a happy ending. She said the daughter's grades have improved. She feels more self-confident and is wearing less makeup. For whatever that take
Was this
that.
some sort of prosthetic surgery center email chain you're on or something on the benefits of surgery? Or
Typically with the nose job, they're making it smaller. It's just this really just blew my mind because that would not have been at all like one of the early things. It's like, get a new group of friends.
Yeah.
Like,
or
that was my first suggestion.
Yeah, at the very least, be like, okay, this is how to handle situations when stuff like this happens. And yes, it sucks and work through it, but it's a hard learning thing, but it's a good learning lesson for your child, whoever it may be. Does the ending, knowing the ending, does that change? Like if you know the ending, like everything's going to be 100% better, does that change your mind as far as like, yeah, I want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, that to Tyler's point, like the risk assessment and like, hey, doing even like surgeries like with my daughter now and like speech stuff, it's like this summer we're gonna have to go and have her have another surgery. And because one that we did before didn't work all the way correctly. And so this one, it could work. it could also give her sleep apnea. It could also, there's different things associated to it. And so it's just like, okay, like to me, I understand my daughter just fine. Like if like Lorenzo, when you meet her like in a couple months, like you'll understand her, but it's like an adjustment period essentially. And so it's just like, okay, but do you want her like there's all these like you kind of go back and forth. Like I don't want to be in the position to be like, hey, this thing happened because I made this decision long term. That could be negative, but at the same time, I also feel like for me, it's like you want to make sure you give your child like every opportunity. And so this was like, no, I mean, I see both sides of it, but for me, it was just kind of like that extreme for optional surgery was crazy. So in my mind, because I don't know if the daughter, when she's 16 or 17, is like, I don't like the way my tits look. Mom, I need a boob job.
Yeah.
Are we going down that road?
Well, I think that, I mean, I feel like that's the start of it. And if you start with a no job at 14, then there's going to be more. I would imagine there's going to be if there's insecurities about stuff because you didn't teach like, yes, everyone has insecurities. And maybe she did. Maybe she said, hey, this is how we deal with it, and we're going to deal with it for until I raise this money in a remarkably amount of time. This is how we're going to deal with it, and until then, here are the tools. Maybe she did all that. I don't know. But if she didn't, if she just said, hey, suck it up until we could fix this nose, then
until we can fix this hideous nose of yours, honey.
Go hide yourself for a few years.
Yeah. Please stay at home as much as possible for these 2 years while we save up this money.
Well, and she's like, oh, my daughter during the pandemic was so happy because the mask covered her face and like all this stuff.
Oh my God.
Like,
so Jim, with your daughter, has she expressed like, hey, kids make fun of me or something like that?
She just says like she has to repeat herself sometimes to people. And it just gets frustrating. So it's just like, shit, like, okay. When I get it from that standpoint, because when something like that happens, like as a parent, you're just like, I want to do whatever I can to help you, and it's just, but also my daughter's 7, soon to be 8, and not 14. Like that level of maturity, like, I don't know, a little different, but
Tyler, I was trying to think of like you, I mean, you jokingly said like, is she single or whatever, but if let's say she was divorced and there was another her dad was involved, like I would think major life decisions, regardless of the relationship you have with your ex, like you still have to be like, all right, what are we doing here? Right, like you can't just be like oh yeah, she wanted her ears pierced. I mean, that's a little thing, but that's still something you have to discuss, right?
Yeah, so we did this, like Olivia got her ears pierced over the like late summer into school year, like a week or two into the school year. I think she had her ears pierced this year. But yeah, we discussed that and stuff. Ironically though, and I think this is similar in a lot of states, is like one parent is responsible for like making medical decisions. Like legally you have to have that in like your divorce stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, like something like we're discussing, like a nose job, like again, like I really would struggle, like even if, because like Jim's situation is completely different. I view it as like, that's like, your child wants to, like they're the one coming to you telling you stuff, like, and I guess nose job, I just look at it as like different as far as like facial features, Jim joke, boob job, like whatever, like that to me is like way different than what Jim's talking about. So yeah, I mean, fortunately, like knock on wood, like we haven't had to have any of those conversations with Olivia, like about surgery and stuff like that. But yeah, like a nose job is elective surgery and stuff. And yeah, I would really struggle with that.
So go ahead, Jim.
So I'm assuming like Lisa has that power, the medical power for you guys. Okay.
Don't just
I didn't say anything. I was
just
laughing at your face.
I'll be honest. So like Lisa is she's super like protective of Olivia. Like that's again, I think that's a normal mom thing.
Yeah. So like but I guess my question is, so if something happens or like, and you disagree with it or have a different plan of it, like, how does that, is it just her word goes on those type of things? And it's just like,
it's different. Like major medical stuff, like we're supposed to like obviously get together, have those conversations. Like, but if it's just something like, hey, she needs like her doctor visits, shots, all that stuff, like that's supposed to just like Lisa just does that stuff.
what if it's like a tattoo at 17?
I mean, some of us made that mistake at 17.
Mistake.
Mistake.
Some of us, yeah, I have thought.
Wait,
recently,
you were 17 when you got it?
Yeah, Jim and I were 17 actually. So for those of our listeners that don't know, Jim and I had 17-year-old tattoos.
Awesome tattoos.
And our cool parents, shout out Judy, shout out Julie. They came with us, or had to sign.
I was going to ask you about that.
They literally had to sign off, like come in and sign off for us to get tattoos, like
this horrible idea.
Underage.
So I think Tyler and I just went on our own to like book the appointment or something. And then you have to have a parent actually there when things are happening. And or I'm not sure exactly what it was.
We were trying to be cool football players.
Yeah.
Senior year. We wanted to look cool, and what did we do? I got like a tattoo this big that you couldn't even see on my shoulder anyway. So.
Where's yours at, Jim? Is yours on your shoulder too, Jim?
Yeah, but like I remember I had my mom go with me. My dad was like, "There is no way in hell you're doing this."
Yeah, I didn't think your dad would want to.
Yeah, Gary would not sign off on it.
I told my mom, I was like, "Listen, we've already booked the appointment. It's rude." If we don't go,
it's rude. Oh my
he
God.
pulled the Midwestern, like, hey, we can't cancel on these people, Mom.
Julie took me. My dad didn't talk to me for like a week, but
that's it, man. You're I don't remember. I would imagine when you showed everyone tattoos, we were all like, "Oh man, that's sweet." But maybe not. I don't know for sure.
I just like I think some people are like, oh, that's cool, but like they looking back, like
I think it would have been a lot cooler if we were like really good.
We probably should have got barbed wire. Like barbed wire really would have set us apart. Yeah. Like, let's be honest.
Well, you guys started, right?
Yeah. I'm saying also like as a team.
Oh, okay. So it's our fault that you guys have horrible tattoos.
Well, no, I'm sure like the coaching staffs were like, look at these fucking assholes. Like their team sucks and their asses are going out like getting tattoos for what reason? Like this isn't gonna help us win.
Do they look similar? I don't remember because I know Tyler's just like a son or something, right?
That's my second.
I was
mine's like a little
appropriation on mine.
What was yours?
Some Chinese.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, your second one was a cool idea.
My second one was a
cool idea.
My first one was a little cross. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Not that the listeners care. So
I care, and I want to know.
No, dude. So my second one, what was crazy about that? I didn't tell anybody, and I think I got it. I was 18. Didn't tell anyone in my family. And power went out in our house. And I'd always just sleep in my like gym shorts or whatever. And my bedroom was in the basement where the breaker box was. And it was like 2 a.m. or something. And, no shirt on, whatever. My dad comes downstairs and he's like, hey, I need your help to move this so that I can get to the breaker box. Totally unsafe, but like, okay. And then he's doing that. He has this flashlight. We're doing all this other shit. We're flipping things back and forth. Get that up. Lights come back on. It's just him and I in my bedroom, middle of the night. And he's like, what's that? And I just said, Dad, it's late. I don't want to get into it right now. I'm going back to bed. And he's like, he went upstairs. I think was pissed off at my like, what is good? Like, talk to my mom about stuff. Next morning, not a word. And I was just like, that was the best way, I feel like, for me, that he could have found out about it, because it's just like, all right, we pulled the Band-Aid off, we made it happen. Didn't really even get into an argument about it, and just it is what it is.
And an act of God was responsible for showing the second one.
Exactly.
So if I would have told my dad, Dad, I don't want to get into it right now, he wouldn't have had the same reaction. He might have made you start mowing the lawn at 2 a.m. I don't know. I could never. If my dad decided we're talking about something, I could just be like, no, we're not.
Especially, it was something I did not want to have that conversation.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I didn't want to talk about my bad grades, but hey, guess what? We talked about them.
So,
what is your second tattoo?
it's a sun around the and this is how much I wanted it, right?
Where you saw Tyler's like, yes.
I went with Tyler's like, hey, I'm gonna get another tattoo. I'm like,
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
And I was at his apartment or
My head hurts.
whatever dorm, and I was just like, hey, I'll just go with you, check it out. Like, we're going to the same place again. And the dude was like, hey, you see anything?
2 for
like?
1.
And I'm just like, you know, I
That's
have this
kind of how
little
it went
thing
down. Is
I have this little thing on my shoulder. It doesn't look right. Like, there needs to be more, was my opinion. And so he's just like, yeah, no, definitely. And so it's just like, I'm like, what do you think about like a sun? And he's just like, oh, that's cool. He's like, you know what would be really badass? Like a stone sun. And I'm like, you think it would look cool? He's like, oh yeah, dude. So
Can
I don't
you-
have anybody right now. $50. We'll get this done. I was just like, done.
Can you both do me a favor
No,
and send me pictures of your tattoos?
possibly. Yes.
Because I would love to put them on Instagram.
What you should do is take like a corner of the tattoo itself and be like, tune in.
Yeah, tune in to listen to what this is.
Sorry.
All right.
Went kind of sidetracked there.
No, that's perfect. That's so good. My head hurts from laughing. And the sheer size of it also. Okay, so have you guys seen the movie Red Panda? Not Red Panda.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? Red?
Turning Red. Or
Turning Red. Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Watched it last week.
Perfect. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but apparently there's a huge uproar about it because of kind of at the beginning, basically, where they talk about like girls going through their periods, or I mean, that's what the whole movie is, right? A coming of age is what they say. I mean, all Disney movies are coming of age. But there's a huge uproar about it. When I watched it, I didn't know anything about it. I would imagine most people, maybe you guys yourselves included, didn't even like, hey, what's this movie all about? Besides the little 2 lines they give you. But parents were really upset that they're like, we should have known that this blah blah blah. Like, we should have known that this was going to talk about this subject or whatever. I didn't even think about that. And as we watched it, like, I might have glanced at my wife and kind of to see what she was doing, but my kids never brought anything up after the fact. I mean, I think Lillian's, she's 7, she's too young to, I think about that kind of stuff. Mateo, for sure, they've been going through that stuff in school, so I'm sure he was, but he's too shy, even around us, to even bring anything up. After you guys saw that movie, did you have the same reaction as me, as like, well, it's just a Disney movie, or were you guys not really concerned, or were you guys like, okay, is this going to raise questions? Tyler, go ahead, go first.
No, I mean, my initial reaction was, this wasn't as good as Frozen. Like, just, I didn't like it. So, no, I mean, I didn't think twice about it, but also, like, I guess, like, Olivia's watching, like, comedy movies with me, like with Adam Sandler and stuff. And, they're making like sexual references, but a lot of it's just going over her head given her age. So, but no, it's just, I think it's like the day and age we live in is overreaction. Like, everyone just likes to, speak into the wind, and And if anyone can hear him, great. But yeah, I didn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
Jim?
I mean, that really wasn't something that I even thought of when I was watching it. Like, I just figured, okay, like they're just bringing in more like real references that girls probably could relate to
Yeah.
in a particular age group. If you're not in that age group, it went right out. Like, my daughter had no idea what the hell they were talking about on a lot of those things. And
Yeah.
so, but I do think it was probably beneficial to some girls out there that are probably going through a similar situation. I wasn't a
Mhm.
huge fan of the movie, but I also think like I'm not their target audience on that particular movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it just, I mean, I saw some of that shit too. It's just like, dude, yeah, to Tyler's point, it's like people are just going to complain, and like
Yeah.
you can't. It's weird, like even on some other like things in education and like the way like parents are just like, we want to know every single thing it's just like, let your kid grow a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to kill them, right? It's important, I feel like, that they experience different points of view, like different things that are happening, and make them more well-rounded on that side of things, and not just like, hey, when they turn 18 and go away from your like protective bubble, like they're just not going to go crazy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, I mean, I think
Did,
these
did,
somewhat.
did you guys after the fact did you, because I know for a little bit, because being we all have a daughter, for a little bit after the movie, I'm like, when's that gonna happen, and how are we gonna deal with it? And for me, I'm pretty open about stuff, and I'll help her, or I think Andrea will probably talk to her prior to that happening. But Tyler, I started thinking about you, and like, because you're divorced, like what if that happens for the first time when she's with you? Like, have you thought about like how this is going to go down?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's my worst fear.
Yeah.
Like, is if it'll happen like when she's, I guess, with me. Uh, yeah, I'll be honest. Like that's challenging. I guess it's one of those things that I feel like the natural reaction is like the mother kind of like has that conversation and does all that stuff. So I don't know. TBD. I guess we'll see. I'll let you guys know how that ends up turning out. But
If you handle that like a champ, I feel like that's a major power move. Like,
Then everybody should get sun tattoos.
yeah, yeah. If we're
just
selling them, yeah.
just I mean,
No, it's
because
just yeah.
if I was in your position, Ty, probably my first instinct would be like, let me call,
Let me call your mom,
let me call your
or
mom.
my mom.
Yeah, and let's like do that type of thing. I bet if you, not to put any pressure on you, but like if you handle that right, like I think that would be huge. Like just in your relationship and everything else going through. But
Have you? You don't have to go
I
into
wouldn't be
detail.
able.
No, you don't have to go into detail, Tyler. But have you and your ex like discussed that at all?
Not yet. No.
Okay, I know she's
No.
like young and stuff, but I just didn't know. I wasn't sure, because I would imagine, so being divorced, you have to talk about things that could happen in the future. You have to talk about them sooner, just so you're not reacting by yourself to certain things. And I don't know if you guys do that or not, but for me, like, I'd want to be like, okay, well, she's going to be in junior high in a few years. How are we going to handle that? Or, like, I just feel like it would make life a lot easier to like have these talks prior to.
Yeah, me planning ahead is more or less right now like, hey, you should like Michigan versus Ohio. Ohio State
Okay.
sucks. But like that's about as far. So I'm like slowly trying to like, plant the seeds, like take her to a game or two. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's some of these conversations are definitely like I've definitely thought about them. I just don't know, like, when they will, I guess, supposedly happen and stuff.
It's
So,
crazy because when I think of my daughter, like it's like, okay, little kid or whatever, but like she's almost done with second grade now. So then like third grade's like like the whole like sex ed stuff like starts, I guess, here at least. And I think that's
Okay.
how it was at Perrysburg also. And it was
I know.
just like,
Yeah, I know. For Mateo's in 4th grade, and they started talking about it this year.
okay.
Yeah, so similar.
So it's just like, holy shit. Like, you know, I think back at that age, it was just like, okay, this is going to be my life for the next few years, and buckle in and we'll figure shit out. So,
Yeah, all I've thought is that, like, and I've told Olivia, I'm like, you can start dating when you're like 30, 35. So just putting that out there early.
Which as the world moves, that's happening naturally anyway. I mean, there's
Oh yeah, it seemingly is. Like
we have 2 friends that are getting married this year, or that have recently got married. Kurt got married, and so some of our other friends recently are having kids right now. And
yeah,
so maybe that's something you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, Jim's planning on having that third, and yeah, no.
I was looking at doctors actually the other day.
Yeah, me too.
Snip, snap.
Snip, snap, snip.
You missed the opportune time to do it, which is March Madness. Yeah, so you're gonna have to wait another year, Jim.
I was talking to my brother-in-law who had a vasectomy and got it reversed when he met my sister, and and then they have my little nephew now. But he was like, I told him, I was like, I'm thinking about doing it. First of all, where he went, and I'm assuming it's very similar everywhere. You're not put out. Everything's just numbed up, right? And you're just standing there in the doctor's office, and they do it while you're just standing there. I'm like, that makes me not want to do it. You're
Sounds
just standing
terrifying.
there. He's like, yeah, you just stand there. It's like a big rubber band that gets snapped. I'm like, no. I know.
Okay, but here, counterpoint, right?
Jim, counterpoint, Hutchison, go.
What if your wife came in and was like, hey, I'm pregnant, versus you standing in a doctor's office for 10 minutes?
Okay, well, let's get this straight. I'm gonna do it.
It's a blessing, Jim. Every child is a blessing.
I'm gonna do it at some point. I'm just saying it doesn't make it less terrifying.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, having a 8-year age gap between your last, you're assuming your last kid and a new one is also terrifying. So, I mean, that's what happened with my family. My youngest sister, Martina, she's 7 years younger than me. So my dad always said that was a surprise, and my mom was like, "No, I planned that shit." I was like, "Oh, okay." So it's like Tyler said, every child's a blessing. Maybe. All right.
I guess.
All right. So we can all agree it's terrifying, and we are scared that it's going to happen when a woman is not present to help. Chances are, Tyler has the higher chances of that. So cross our fingers it happens and we can talk about it. So
Yes.
All right. Our last story for this month, Tyler, what do you got for us?
So, not, I guess, so much a story, but just wanted your thoughts on travel sports. Do you guys think putting your kids through travel sports is worth it in today's day and age? And I guess one of the reasons I bring this up was I was having a conversation last night with Ron. For those of you who don't know,
Uncle Ron.
Yeah, Uncle Ron. I call him Uncle Ron.
He's coming on. He's coming on the podcast, by the way.
Oh, is he? Nice.
Yeah.
So, great guy. But we were talking about travel sports for some reason, just randomly last night. It got me to thinking. I'm like, I don't think any of us are at that point, right? Like where your kids are really doing travel sports per se. Correct.
This is Mateo's second year playing travel baseball.
Okay. Yeah. So you'll be a great resource then. Like, do you think? Like, I guess, number one, why did you put Mateo in travel baseball rather than house baseball?
So he played house baseball. He started when he was in kindergarten. So when he was 5, and he played for until he was 8. Last year, he was on a 9U team, 10U this year, obviously. So we asked him if he wanted to play travel baseball. And he said yes, he wanted to try out. So he tried out, didn't make the team, but there was enough kids that didn't make the first team that they were creating a second team.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason if there wasn't, we just wouldn't have played. We wouldn't have played travel baseball. The reason we did play is I knew the head coach, or he was going to be the head coach of the second team. I knew him, and from my experience as a travel baseball umpire, those quote unquote second teams are always like disgruntled dads that hey, my kid should have made it, so I'm just going to create this team, and they're not very good. So I knew, knowing the head coach and knowing the other coaches, like I knew that wasn't the reason. Like they weren't. It's just hey, we want to give our kids a chance to play travel baseball. Also, after talking to him, travel is a very loose term. People think travel baseball, like, hey, we're going to this state, we're going to that state. We left. We never stayed the night at a hotel. Whenever all the tournaments were around here,
Yeah.
the furthest was in Sandusky. So it wasn't like we had to spend money on
craziness. That. Yeah.
Correct.
So I guess
correct.
That's what I was initially thinking last night was, like Ron was telling me about it, like, his son, Ben, and he said, he bought into travel sports, when Ben was kind of coming up through the ranks. And he was telling me, like, he's like, yeah, we would have tournaments every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, we were going to Chicago, we were going to Indianapolis, we were going to Columbus. And I was like, dude, like, how do people afford this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, if your kid is on like a travel team like that, but like what you're talking about is like local tournaments. And I don't see a problem with that, like that's kind of cool to me. But yeah, I guess I would just struggle. Like if Olivia, got to a point where, she dedicated herself to a sport and she was telling me she wanted to do travel, whatever. And like, and if it was serious, like, I'm like, how do people afford this? Like, because just thinking about like the hotels and stuff alone and like the travel costs, like, man, it's got to get expensive so fast. So,
well, also the nature of travel baseball, it's still during the baseball season, which is a plus too. Like I think it's basketball and volleyball are the ones where like, hey, we do this 365 versus tournaments all the time. I think those are the big ones. So right now with travel baseball and him, being on the team he is and not having to go very far, like sure, let's face a little better competition. That's we got to spend money because it's not house baseball, but we don't have to go to hotels. And I think he plays on like 3 tournaments or something in the summer, so it's not a lot. Sorry, Jim, you're gonna say something.
No, I was just gonna, like, that to me sounds perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, we're never staying over. We're not like, kids that want to get better and play more, like they can go do it. We're going to go do these tournaments. We're going to do all this other stuff. What blows my mind, like especially here in Texas, is there's a lot of these travel teams and like the head coach, like that's their full-time job.
Yeah.
Like these parents are like paying salaries for these people and they're not making they're making 80, 100 grand a year coaching travel teams. Especially like soccer clubs are huge here. Like we have a lot of them. FC Dallas, like there's all these different age groups that they go through. And these guys, you're dropping a couple grand to register. Like there's coaches fees, there's field fees, there's tournaments that they're all going to. And it, like, to me, like to what Lorenzo was saying, like, I feel like it's just like a lot of parents that were just like, hey, I could have made, like, I feel like in their head, they're like, man, if I didn't have an asshole coach, if I would have just done this a little different, like I could have done X. And like, when I look at that, it's like, best
really,
case
they should have said, if my kid just didn't suck at this sport, they could have got on the A team. Yeah.
Or even if like you're really good, right? Like colleges and stuff, and maybe it's changed, but I feel like, maybe 8th grade, 9th grade is when if you're like elite, like you might start to get on like radars of things, but like if you're 4th, 5th, 6th grade, like get out and play. I feel like as much as you can. And it's like, and it's also, it's gone to like super specialized in sports and like, I feel like it was that way when we were like starting to trend that way when we were going through like high school, where I mean, there's some friends of ours who like only played this sport, only
Yeah.
did this type of thing, even though they would have excelled in a major like in a lot of different sports. And it's just like, hey, out of all these kids here, there's only so many scholarships. There's only so many like professional, and like, what's the
Well,
real?
and so what is it, like 1% of all kids that play sports will even get like a college scholarship? Like we're not even talking professional. So like I guess that was where I was wanted to go with it, is like, is the juice worth the squeeze? And like to me, like the answer is no. Like I don't see it. Like the thing, Lorenzo, you mentioned, like, young, like umpiring. And I still remember, like, I ended up quitting because like it just wasn't any fun anymore. Because some of the parents, like, and we're
Mhm.
talking like these are like U11, U12 travel baseball, and they're screaming at umpires.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this is not that. It should not be that intense. Like, okay, like, just cheer your kid on, but you don't need to like go after people like if you think a call was blown. I don't know.
You-
So
I also wonder like when like your kid, like if you have a kid and they're traveling to Chicago, Indianapolis, like all these different places, because like how much do they even enjoy that? Because it's like, okay, I'm on my
yeah.
weekend from school, a day here, a day there, travel. That one day, it's nonstop sports that we're there, but it's like, yeah, it's cool. We're in Chicago, but you're probably not even like going out and seeing like a Wrigley Field, or going to go and see like
There's just
Willis.
no time for
Yeah, there's nothing.
vacationing.
It's like it could be in any city. Like, who
Yeah.
cares what you're saying it is? It's like the kid's not enjoying it, and being able to see these cool things, and
Yeah.
I
I would
think that would
venture,
like mentally have an effect where it's like,
yeah,
okay,
like
do I want to do this even more as a kid? But
I vaguely remember like taking a couple like trips, like because I was on like a travel soccer team, but the same thing, Lorenzo. Like we did like one trip a year. Like we
Mhm.
never really got outside of Northwest Ohio. But I remember all I remember, Jim, is literally like about that tournament is like, the standard, like, oh, we had some oranges at the tournament, like, and we stayed at a hotel, and that was kind of cool. But like looking back, I don't really remember much about that specific
now
like
the
tournament.
cool thing I would say is like, sorry, um, like you get to spend a lot of time with your buddies, right?
Yeah,
Friends on the team, because you're
yeah.
doing this and it's kind of like a bonding experience that you're going through. I think looking at it that way, like, be good for kids, but some of these over the top parents and stuff, crazy.
Well,
I guess the I just don't see the three of us being like, I guess, those parents of craziness of travel sports, but I could be
did you
wrong.
just point at me?
I did. I'm not sure how everything
Oh, it
was
was you nailed it.
everybody else's thing, but
You nailed it. No. Um I so with travel sports as like even Mateo's age, like it's it'd be hard for me to be like, if he was really into basketball and liked basketball, like if he wanted to do that, and soccer sailed a long time ago, that wasn't a thing for either of them. But if you wanted to do like multiple things, that's where I'd be like, I don't know. I mean, we even kind of did that with Lillian right now. She does gymnastics and baton year round. Baton's 2 nights a week, gymnastics is once. But her gymnastics program wanted her to like go on this, it's called a training team, and she's 7. They want to do this training team where she does it like 2 nights a week, and it happened to fall on the same nights as baton, and she could make both, but I turned to my wife, I was like, she's 7, we're not going to make her do 3 hours worth of stuff on a Monday night and Wednesday night, so we have to pick.
That's
And
yeah, that's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so we told her, we said, hey, we're sticking with baton Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, and you'll just do gymnastics one night a week, and so even that, like, we had to decide something like that. But as far as like, we let our kids decide. Like if Mateo said, hey, this is my last year playing travel baseball, I don't want to play anymore, I would say, okay, that's fine. I think
Yeah.
he's okay at baseball, but the same what Jim was saying, like he likes being around like his friends all
Yeah.
summer,
Well, a
hanging
lot
out
of it
with
too
them.
is like, you say your kid he likes baseball, like, and he's okay with it or good with it, whatever. But it's like, they're so young, like they're not going to get discovered is my point at like,
Sure.
10
Yeah.
years old. Like, I don't know. So that's where I struggle is like the parents that think like the travel baseball or soccer or basketball will help their kid break out. And like,
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
another aspect of it too is recruiting. So as you get older, it's so much easier to recruit. I mean, I don't remember when we were in high school, uh, our classmates going to Division 3, Division 2 schools. It was always a big deal when it was a Division 1 school. Here's your scholarship. But I mean, there's from this past football team, I think we had maybe, I don't know, 7 kids playing college football, which to me seems like a lot of kids. Now it's all different levels, 1 through 3, Division 1 through 3, but it just seems like if kids want to play a sport in college, they can. It doesn't matter how good you are. There's going to be a school that, yes, we need to fill our roster. I talked to a coach when I first started coaching at Perrysburg. He was a varsity coach, and he said he was a football coach at Defiance College. He said we had to bring in 700 freshmen like to visit because we needed at least 100 kids to come to Defiance College. And at that point, well, how good are these kids? Well, probably not exceptional, but it's Division 3 football,
Yeah.
So it's, I think the nature of recruiting, knowing if you want to play a sport in college, you can. It just depends on what level you want to play at.
Yeah, what level you want to play. That's a good point. Yeah.
And I also think what parents need to also realize is, especially like the older travel teams, like I'll hear it a lot from parents like around here where they're like, oh, my kid was asked to join this team, or my kid was like told to do this. I have such like a skeptic thought where it's just like, do they really want my kid, or do they need to kind of, to your point, like they need to fill out another spot.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of these things, it's a business that essentially they're running where it's just like, okay, if we can get 12 people or, like 20 people on the team or whatever, 18 people, then, it costs only this amount and I can make like X amount on this and do different, like all this type of stuff. And like, that's the like part that just like, like it just gives me the, like, I feel like parents got in there and like these like some of these coaches that I've seen, it's just like,
I think it's a lot of disgruntled parents. It really is, like, to whoever said it, but like, yeah, I just remember like a U11 or U12 age, and there were like 3 or 4 travel Perrysburg teams. And I'm like, really, in my, like, if you, quote unquote, you're really good, there might be 1 or 2, but like, why are there 3 or 4 at this age? Like, dude, just put your kid in like house baseball. Like, I had so much fun playing Perrysburg, like house baseball. And like, looking back, like, I don't want to bring, well, I'll burn myself, but I was the last kid cut in freshman year of baseball, and I don't regret anything. It's not like I like go back thinking like, oh my gosh, I should have played travel because I could have been that much better. But I don't know. Like, I felt like I was close to some of the other kids, that, and all I did was play house, and I didn't even really dedicate as much time to it either. So basically, what I'm telling you is I'm a gifted athlete.
All right, guys. Well,
hold on real quick.
Yeah.
Friend of the program, George Smith, sent me an article that I just want to bring up.
Sure.
Because he's on my like he's with me in terms of where Disney is.
Okay.
Not the biggest fans in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. So he sent this to me where.
Careful, Jim. Careful.
You're
talking to 2 big Disney fans.
Yeah. I want to hear your guys' take on this.
Sure.
Disney has a new Star Wars hotel.
Yes.
That they are charging between $5,000 and $20,000.
Yeah.
To go to. That is struggling somehow to book.
Oh, weird.
Their rooms. After the first like month, I guess it was booked up. And then after that, it's been like nothing. Now, a little backstory. I looked into this hotel. You have 0 windows. You have a screen.
Well, you're in a spaceship. So
yeah. So essentially,
don't you know what you're talking about, Jim? Maybe you're not the best resource here.
you have a screen that looks like you're in a spaceship, kind of,
Okay.
but that's what you're looking at instead of a window.
It's called a completely immersive experience. Okay. Okay.
I just want to know, Disney has people for everything, right? And who's like, I told George this, and I thought it was a valid point. On a cruise ship, right? The cheapest rooms are like the middle of the ship.
Yeah.
You have no windows. And that's exactly like looking at the photos of this thing. What it kind of reminded me of was like the inner rooms of a cruise ship. And I'm all for like, hey, if you want to do a Star Wars theme, but who's like, hey, let's take all the windows out of this place and have no pool or any spas or anything else. And let's charge them at minimum $5,000 to do this. And that doesn't include any drinks, any food. You want to get your picture taken with something or have them take your picture? There's $100. People will love it. And I would have just loved to have been in that like meeting at Disney when they're like, guys, I think I got this pricing model like figured out to a T. We want to do it this way. Check it out. Now defend Sir Walt.
Defend your Disney. Go ahead, guys. I'll hang up and listen.
I'm not going to defend anything because I do not like Star Wars. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. So I would never do that. And I don't care how much Mateo loves it, because he does. He watched all the movies by himself. I would not pay that price at all, ever. So I yes, Disney is notorious for like, here's the price of this thing. Oh, you want to add this thing on? There's another price. Oh, and this other thing too that you thought was free, that's another price. That's just how it works. And sometimes
that is Disney's pricing model, Jim. You said the whole like, oh, you want your picture taken? That's another month. Well, yeah, that literally is how it works. Like,
yeah, so I'm fine with that, because going in, like, I know that's how they operate. But to even start, like, no, I would forget that. I'm not
like
gonna
in the same case, like, I'm assuming for $5,000 a night or whatever, you could probably get like a villa at another Disney hotel that's like
not even that. I mean,
for $5,000 a night, yes. Yeah. So like I know very little about the I think they call it like Star Wars Galactica or something. But like I think that it was way different from when they like I remember hearing the initial reaction was like, oh, Disney's going to build a Star Wars hotel, like a themed hotel. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. But then I heard like it was like you're referring to, completely immersive. You're literally like, as soon as you get to the hotel, like your brain, they basically start changing your brain, thinking you're in Star Wars. And like the characters, are.
Yeah, that was their selling point. Like Chewbacca could be on an elevator with you.
Yeah.
And be
so
like,
you got to be a huge Star Wars fan, obviously, like, to do this. Do I think there's people to fill the slots? Yeah. I like, to your point though, I haven't seen anything about like if they're having trouble finding people.
Well, also,
I'm
how
sure,
big is this? How big is this hotel? How many rooms are there? Do we know that?
No idea.
Yeah, I was just curious.
We'll get our stat to figure that out.
We'll get our stat guys. We'll get on that. Yeah.
Well, we stayed the very first time we went. We stayed at Animal Kingdom or Animal Lodge or Kingdom Lodge or whatever, and that's pretty expensive. That's one of the high tier ones, and even that was, I mean, it was under $1,000, but it was still a hefty price.
Just knowing the prices, because I was like looking around, obviously for my trip recently, like there are some hotels like that, like Lorenzo referred to. Animal Kingdom is one of them, I think, that if you're staying in like a bigger bedroom or like room type, it is pushing $1,000 a night. So the discount hotels for Disney are, I want to say, at least $200 a night. We stayed, like, when I just went with my daughter Rick and Adrian and their kids, like we stayed at like a moderate, and I think it was like over 300 something a night.
That's how ours was too.
Yeah, so it's definitely creeping up there. But that's a major price difference between 5,000 for, I think I saw 2 nights at that thing, and I was like, dude, it would be cool, I kind of think, because I do like Star Wars, but do I like $5,000 for 2 nights Star Wars? No, like I wouldn't do that. So
beer is $13 a beer, $11 for wine, $23 for specialty drinks.
It all seems normal to me.
Yeah, you're throwing out numbers, and honestly, like that sounds like Disney to me, though. Like they're Disney's in it for making money, and obviously, like they signed that. What it was, they bought the Star Wars rights for like what $3 billion, I think. Like, I will say the Star Wars land was cool because like it is. I think that's what they're doing with Star Wars is like they try and like put you into a completely immersive experience. And so like when you were walking through like Star Wars at Hollywood Studios, like anywhere you looked, like like it's not like I could just see like something out in the distance, like because of the way they built it, like they built the structures where all you're seeing is Star Wars like land. So it is kind of cool for that matter. But again, the hotel I feel like would just I feel like it would get old.
I like it was interesting because they said like the first 2 months or first month like booked up completely, but then because I'm sure those are people like
that have been waiting since they announced
die hard, have money, all this stuff. My question would be like, okay, once those people run through, how many other people are going to be like, hey, let's go, let's check this place out, right? So
yeah. All right, well, thanks for George for writing in. Thanks to you guys for being
people.
What's that?
I said it's that easy.
You're on.
Next caller, go ahead.
Thanks to you guys for doing another month of this. This is fun. I enjoy it. So hopefully we keep doing it, and maybe our new model of everyone bringing a story will help it too. So, anything else as we depart here?
Nope.
Okay. Well, enjoy your weekends, and we'll be back in a month. We'll see you guys.
See you guys.